We're living in a sovereign state that sold us out to save their face with a European money man. Now we get to pay again. Mortgages are in arrears, water charges raising fears, but the bondholders are getting
And you know,
paid.
people say, looking back, that those were the days when protesters were good. But my memory of it is not quite that at all, because, I mean, I remember, for instance, on equal pay, we occupied the Federated Union of Employers and a number of people were arrested. I remember on the contraception issue that people were arrested giving out free contraceptives at stalls when they were illegal. And on the issue of divorce, I remember arrests too. But I suppose nothing to compare with the current kind of wave of repression which seems to be going on in terms of the water movement, and also the demonisation of the water protesters and the attempt to divide the protest movement between, you know, responsible, respectable people who will have bought into the change that was announced, and the people who continue to protest. And to me, it is an honourable badge for all of them that they continue to protest, because the only real change comes from continual protest.
Take your water. I have to say that this protest occupies me 24/7. And I'm always thinking of ways and means of spreading the word and how to get the word out there, because my main role when I started off was actually just working off the Sword Says No page. I mean, I didn't even know how to share a post. I didn't even know how you actually posted a post. And it was just kind of left me to do it. But that kind of suits me, that kind of being independent and being able to do what I want. And I was told that I could go with it. There was kind of a weariness at that stage on that page. There had been some kind of like, I suppose, bad experiences for some of the activists with regards to the demonisation and the criminalisation of people. And maybe they need to take a step back. So I was happy enough to move into that spot. I think the main driving thing that I would feel about it is injustice. Injustice, and I've always been that child that was in school that got into trouble for sticking my nose into the teachers arguing with some other students, for sticking my nose into arguments at home, and usually I got slapped down for it. And I have to say, I'm of a generation of women who were looked at if they were vocal as maybe being a little bit odd or stroppy or, you know, out there. And it did actually make you feel very self-conscious about the way you were. So Facebook offered for me a perfect avenue. I didn't have to put my face out there. All I had to do was put out the message that I wanted to keep putting out. And then what I actually found was then, like, there comes a stage where you're asked the question, right, well, you're there and you're saying this and you're saying that and you're arguing the point, that you have to actually step up to the plate and make your physical presence felt. My nephew is here in the audience and he's laughing because he could imagine what I guess, like, you don't curse, don't swear, which kind of brings me around to the actual standing up and being yourself out in public and protesting, and how you need to be so actually brave to do it. I mean, the nerves I had the first time I spoke down at Swords, I mean, I thought there was going to be 200 people, and the march just kept coming around and around the corner, and I was going, no, please, like, and I knew these people, and they would know my face from being around Swords. But I think it really was a challenge for me, like, who's been a gobby person, to actually say, well, right now, you Miss Gobby, now get up there and do what you have to do. One of the greatest injustices is actually the demonisation of the protesters. And what they've actually done is, because they couldn't argue the logic of the water charges, because it had too many holes in it, the way it was set up. I'm not just talking about the Quango part of it, I'm talking about the ultimate agenda of where they were definitely heading towards looking for a stream of income by privatising the water. And I think I saw that very early on, and I'd have lots of interest in Nestle and Viola and these countries around the world. I mean, there's places in Nigeria where 50% of the people's disposable income is spent on bottled water, and they live beside sources of water, which have been taken over by these huge corporations. And you talk about the injustice of that being a terrible thing, but what they've actually done is they've looked at the protest and they said, well, we can't argue it because there are too many intelligent people now. You can't educate a whole generation of people and expect them not to understand what's going on. And they couldn't actually, if you went in and you said to them at the very beginning, but why are you privatising the water? Put the 500 million into fixing the pipes.
Yes.
Take the lead out of the system. Fix the situation in Roscommon. As a matter of fact, why don't you hold a vote and say to everybody, will everybody pay €2 extra in their salary for a year, and we'll invest it in our water system for our water. And that's where our government are not working for us. They have absolutely forgotten us. We are economic slaves to their ultimate goals, and that's what it is.
Very much for being asked along. Bernie was asked, but obviously she can't be here. All my life I've grown up being brought to protests. Obviously I didn't want to go all the time and I was dragged, but do I appreciate it now? Definitely I do appreciate it, because I grew up with a sense of awareness of what was happening in the country. I wasn't brought up to believe what the Herald or the Independent or any other media outlet was telling me. I questioned what we were being told in the media, and that's all down to my mum. My brothers are the same. We question everything.
In the immortal words of Meter Mick, we are meter preventers, and that is what we do. We prevent the meters going in, full stop. The bottom line for the movement on the northeast has been to stop the meters going in. If they get them in, they have you. They have their revenue stream. They have their money maker. And the bottom line for us is stop the meters going in. Protests, they just don't know how to deal with them. At the end of the day, I think the water movement in this country is the biggest sin in a generation. Nobody has seen anything like this before. It's absolutely unprecedented.
I decided that I wanted to be involved in the protest movement, and the household charge movement was something that one of the major things I really got involved in, and there was a lot of people that was involved in it. There was a victory in the sense that they had to hand it to revenue because nobody was registering and paying it. But then obviously revenue came in and that sorted that out. People got afraid, but we got over that, and the water charges was the next thing. Stopping the water meters has definitely escalated. I don't think any of us realised when we first went out how big it would become. And for the most part there was women out in the mornings. They might have their kids with them before school, they go do the school run, come back. Of course there was men there as well, but women definitely were on the front line for the majority of the time.
But they started looking at the way people were speaking. They didn't listen to what the people were saying. It was the way people were speaking. So now we said, oh well, we better look at how we deliver the message. And started to play the game of, oh, it's peaceful protest, and we won't shout and we won't curse and all like that. And that seemed like a valid point, and it seemed like a valid motive at the time. But then they actually started to go in and pick on different people and look at these people and try to smear them and try to say they're on the dole, they don't do any work, they're layabouts, they're this, they're that. We only yesterday, looking at that $100 lunch and supporters of Fine Gael coming out, we were told to fuckle off and told to get a job. We were told that only yesterday.
Back to the point you were saying, Anne, about the language being used. I think the one major protest was the President's protest in Finglas, where the media decided a week later, after it happened, that they wanted to jump on this whole protest and put it across the paper and put it in the headlines. Yeah, bad language was used. My ma hates bad language. Kevin, you'd agree with that. She tells us all to stop and give out. I say feck and she's telling me that I'm cursing. So I've grown up with that, so I don't necessarily agree with it. But you have to be in the situation to know like how it feels like when you're being pushed around, and that's where the language comes from. You're angry. Like the President's protest, the major headline on RTE was the President was called a major parasite, whatever. And they showed a clip then. They showed a clip, and at the end of the clip you see a guard pushing three women. One of the women was me, but RTE didn't decide to discuss the fact they were shown that clip. All they cared about was that the President was called something.
Media will vilify, demonise, try to criminalise, and as Anne quite rightly said, they do degenerate where you come from, how you speak, how you look, how you represent yourself. Bad language to them is something that's absolutely abhorrent, and they've never used it, and it's come from literally like water doesn't fall from the sky, it's just come from out of the blue. They've never heard anything like this before. So
we're doing this as the cars were leaving, implying like you're buying your future, you're buying it for yourself. with your $100 lunch. And there's people who can't even spend €100 on shopping a week to feed their kids. And we were doing this for hours because Dr. James O'Reilly was terrified to come out. I know. He had to have double helpings of dessert. And at least that's what you look like. But
guards focus on the women to try and incite the men, and that's. Do they incite the men? Of course, the men get annoyed when they see women being pushed around. Like, it's only natural, because no one should be getting pushed around, especially not by An Garda Síochána, who are meant to be there as peacekeepers and protectors. They're not employed to protect big companies owned by tax exiles or anything else. They're there to protect the people, and that's unfortunately something they're not doing.
Sending the Gardaí in at 6:30 in the morning, 20 to 40 Gardaí. Irish Water rock up at 9:30. Security guards are minding the shores. Couple of hours, you know. Here we are, lads, we're standing here, you know, full body kit, uniformed up, hat on, minding the shore. In the meantime, law and order in this country has gone out the window. Burglaries is up 67% in the last year. You know, there is nobody to come to Mary and Joe, number 52, and their house is robbed. Sorry, love, they're on a shore there in Rialto. Tomorrow.
Because protesters shouldn't have cars. Because he didn't deserve to have a car. Is that what you're saying? Because that protester got in a Beamer, that it happened to be a Beamer, and was driving down the road, he's not a valid person. We're not valid. That we don't have jobs. No. And it was just like, that is the whole issue now that is actually driving the movement forward. That this isolation of people, first of all, you have the unsubstantiated allegations. You have Frances Fitzgerald, she's on drive time, she's turning around saying slashed tyres and smashed windscreens. And you have the interviewer saying, quantify it. No, I can't quantify it because I'm telling lies. I'm actually on television telling lies. I'm not disseminating, I'm not exaggerating, I'm telling lies. Alan Kelly sat there, oh, we've incidents of people being bit. Show me the photograph. Show me the pictures. Show me the doctor's report. So this is what they all went down along with, and apologies to Jessica, I don't mean to upset her, but then they decided to criminalise people. And to me, that is the worst thing they ever could have done. It's not worse for, it's to criminalise somebody who is standing up there, fighting for their own beliefs, and instead of it actually making me more fearful, it actually makes me more daring.
The government have realised that they can't stop us, because we've found a voice and we've realised that as ordinary people we can stand up, whether you're young, old or whatever. And it's just a fact that we all have to stand together and stand strong. And Bernie's favourite saying is strength and unity. Yeah. That's definitely something that the government don't understand. No, they don't realise it. They come out and they all say different things, and they say, oh, we should be able to protest 20 metres away. We'll protest where we want, and we've proved that. Like, we're not going to be told what to do. We're just not. Like, they tried to do that during Greyhound strike as well, where they went to courts and got an injunction. We proved that as well. We broke the injunction. The injunction was broken. It was broken, and they didn't even try. In that case, they didn't try to bring anyone to court and find them in contempt of court. But definitely, I think women have a vital role to play. But I do agree it shouldn't be split into men and women. It's all of us together. And Bernie knew I was coming here today, and she just wanted to send her best wishes, and obviously she's sorry she can't be here, but she'll be back out fighting once she's released. The 19th, yeah, so strengthening unity.
I think the ironic part of it in International Women's Day as well too is that a lot of this is driven by women, by Joan Borton, by Lorraine Higgins, by like women.
Joanna Tuffy, yeah. Every word that comes out of the lovely Elizabeth's mouth at this stage, I'm like, oh please woman, stop talking. She's being paid 150 grand a year in the region of by Irish Water to spout this rubbish. She's a highly paid PR consultant who basically, in my opinion, in the PR business, shouldn't get arrested because she's absolutely dreadful. She's done more harm to Irish Water than anybody else has done. You know.
But when you look at women standing up and belittling other people, that just goes against the whole idea of the woman being the nurturing, the caring, the person in society who's supposed to stand up for the ideals and stand up for justice. And when you actually look at the leaders of our government like Joan Borton and the use of Maria Cal and the way she slags off Mary Lou. I'm no Sinn Féin supporter, but it's just absolutely a disgrace that women have fought to be where they are today, and the many men who support them, like my own husband, who still is talking to me, I don't know why. And there are many men who have supported them, and it's a great movement. It's a brilliant movement. The protest movement is a brilliant movement because I can take the bullhorn, or a man can take the bullhorn. I can stand in front of a digger, or a man can stand in front of a digger, and that is why it's so egalitarian. And at first when I was invited to talk, I was kind of going, oh, I don't really do that kind of male-female thing. And what I think we have to look at is the message of this protest goes beyond gender and goes beyond class. This protest is about humanity and compassion. And if you have no compassion for your fellow human being, that you would abuse them and exploit them and actually take the way they speak, that they curse, where they're from, you take their socio-economic background and you use it to beat them with a stick, and then you actually put them in prison. It's just incredible.
1000% on the side of the government and back them up at every hand's turn. As for deadline day, I will call that doomsday, because every time they change the rules, change the parameters, oh, you can register in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whenever you feel like, doesn't matter, whenever you feel like paying, give us a ring, we'll take your money. These people are lunatics. I mean, the lunatics have generally taken over the asylum, and by God, they're running it into the ground, absolutely into the ground.
And I can't understand why the media are not outraged. Why is this complicity between our government and the media that we have allowed to happen? Not only have they taken away our voices, they've replaced it with some distorted voice that's not even ours.
The media has moved to collusion with the government when it started,
yes,
by being very supportive and being very open to the fact of a mass protest and saying what does this mean, and analysis pieces and all the rest. And then it moved to the government line.
Yes.
And it didn't happen subtly, it happened quickly.
Yeah.
It was like, this is a threat, this is serious, we need to galvanise our position and we need to get on side with the powers that be.
Our children's money, our children's money. I mean, you're talking 2 generations before this debt is paid. For what? For something we didn't do, for something we didn't want to happen or allow to happen. The advice that was given to them regarding the bailout and the bonds and everything else, they duly ignored and said, of course, Angela, we'll pay that money, when would you like it? And signed on the dotted line. They've signed our lives away. They have actually destroyed this country. They have privatised everything that is not nailed down. And by that I mean everything. They're in the middle of privatising the healthcare. Leo is talking again. Please stop, man, please. We also have the privatisation of social welfare. That's in the offing as well. You know, we have Joan Burton taking women, well, I should say Joan Lady Thatcher Burton, because by God she learned from the best. This woman is basically putting women and children into a lifetime of absolute and utter poverty. She is a woman who purports to stand up for the women in this country. The women in this country, according to her in the paper last week, are absolute heroes. Why are you taking €86 a week off them and you're stopping them feeding their children? You are basically trying to keep the working class people in what you would like them to be permanently, that is poverty. Ignorance and poverty, that is what they want. They don't want us to stand up, they don't want 100,000 people on the streets, they don't want us anywhere near the streets. They want us dumb, quiet, docile and doing what we're told.
Just wrap up really quickly, because of the thing about the idea of there's a secret handbook of how to protest. Like what to wear to a protest, how to look at a protest,
what wine to drink.
What wine. Just gave me the opening I required. I'm just having a little sip there. But this kind of idea that there's some kind of like etiquette of protesting. The government screaming about, oh, they can do it if they do it nicely, and absolutely, but you must do it democratically and all like that. They should actually go and do a bit of research, because the European Court of Human Rights have ruled that impediment as a form of protest is valid and recognised. That we all just don't live in this island and we don't hear anything from anywhere else. That the government themselves and these people with their hysteria and their dramatic statements condemning people for being non-democratic should have a look at the totalitarianship that they are putting in force in this country.
100 years almost to the 1916 Rising, and let me assure you, Joan, and your little friends in government, we are coming for you again. Ooh. We are not going to take this line down. Absolutely not. For 50 years, we've more or less went along with it to a large extent, and that was because I do think when things are going okay, in particular when people have medical cards, and Noel Brown has a lot to do with that, and the work he did in making sure that people were looked after health-wise, I do think in the last 20 years that they've slowly started to slice off, bit by bit, by bit by bit, until the point whereby we're pressed to the absolute limit, and water is literally the straw that broke the camel's back.
We're living in a sovereign state that sold us out to save their face with a European money man. Now we get to pay again. Mortgages are in arrears.